70s, which India and Sweden was strong advocates of. We have a very close connection between the national strategy and our operational requirement, as also as addressed by Air Chief Marshal Major. We are technological countries. The close cooperation between the air industry and the Air Force and academia, that is more or less paramount for the development that we have had in our country, and which I'll talk a bit about. I also like your view on the customer in the driver's seat, because that's what we airmen should be, I think, in the development of the products. And I've also already discovered during my time in India the ever-smiling faces in every corner of every street. That's great. So I'm pleased to be here and to have this opportunity to talk about my views and the Swedish Air Force views of the next generation fighter and its requirements. First, a short introduction or sort of build a platform around what Sweden is and what the Swedish Air Force is. Sweden is a country that during the Cold War is situated between the two blocks. The size of the country is 840 nautical miles versus 250. Altogether 450,000 square kilometers. For the European arena, that's a big country because it's about the size of France or Germany. But it's only 1/7 of India. And the population is 9 million in Sweden. And we all know how many millions you are here in India. So there's quite a comparison. That's why I said it will take a lifetime to explore India from my perspective. We have built our fighters in our defense force, or in our country, since the 1940s of the Second World War, when we tried to force our society into a high technology area to get rid of the dependence on the forests. And I think we successfully did so. Today in the Air Force, as you can see in the picture, the air bases are spread over the country. We have 4 squadrons of operational frontline squadrons of the Gripen. We have 3 squadrons doing the conversions. It can be called an operation conversion unit. And we have 1 operation test and relation unit. Crops and so forth. Talking about air and capabilities, it's important to see where it all starts, so to speak. The Swedish Armed Forces has quite a wide range of capabilities for its size of the country, simply because we were the non-aligned country in the middle of the power block, so we wanted to have some kind of flexibility or freedom of action from a strategic point of view. Air power capabilities has almost the same width of capabilities as the Defense Force has, because of the construct of the products or the platforms. And one of the tenets of air powers is actually flexibility, and as you can see here in the picture, or as depicted in the picture, you can see the width of the capabilities in the Air Force. And what we have done is sort of our strategy is, when we built the Gripen, started the Gripen project from the beginning, it was an idea that we will only afford to build 1 fighter, so it has to be 1 fighter for all the missions. And that fighter, that will be a long-term investment, so we had to make it possible for us to adapt in the future. So we made a strategy where we had a step-by-step spiral development of the fighter. So every 3rd year we build a new package of software and hardware and put into the airframe. And that is a strategy rather than to have midlife updates. So we have that continuous approach because of the changing environment. And we have changed it. For instance, the government told us, now we will be part of the Partnership for Peace, and we want you to be full interoperable with NATO. So we did so. We did that in a package in the Gripen, for instance, Link 16s and so on. I'll come back to that. And also, that strategy will remain in the future, because the Parliament just a year ago took a decision that we will develop the Gripen until 2040, and we'll do it in the same way. And as you can see there on the picture, in any time from now, we can in the air staff decide that we want to have a new capability, and within 3 years' time we'll have it, because the next batch of software is there around the corner. And right now we are finalizing the definition of what we call software number 20 to the Gripen, which will be on order, and we'll get that 2012. And right now we are in a situation where we are getting number 19. So my operations squadrons will fly that in April. Net-centric warfare, that's a buzzword everywhere. We have been into that business since 1970s. We built the first data links in 1963 to the South Balkan from the ground environment. And in 1984 we put a data link into the Viggen system, which is a high-fidelity encryption data link between the aircrafts. And that has been very much it's been very important for us, because we have focused very much on defensive counter-air, so it was important to speed up the loop between the decisions and have a very, very high fidelity information between the fighters. So we did that in 1984, and we took that from the Viggen and then into the Gripen era. Now we have link 16 on the fighters as well, and when my pilots understood that they would get the link 16, they said, no, we would like to have our own links. So in the end it ended up that we have to make the decision, you'll get both. So we will actually have the link 16 environment, but we will also have the national link, because we like the high fidelity part of it, so that you can actually use it very, very much in tactics. A little bit more about the Air Force before I go further, and that is what we recently have done. We participated in Red Flag Alaska 2006 and at Red Flag Nellis 2008. I was there last year. As you can see in the picture, we didn't go there for airspace. Sweden has the northern 1/3 of Sweden is actually airspace that we can train in from day to day. And here you can see from the scale the airspace in Nevada. We went there to meet professional opponents and to work together with coalition partners. What we did was last force employment, coalition warfare. We met the professional opponent, and we did interdiction, close air support, and dynamic targeting. And it was all in an EV environment, of course, and with live firing. And two of the boys also had a nice walk through the deserts of Nevada during the CSAR mission. They discovered that water is very important. It was 50 degrees out there. We did one modification, and as you can see, the T-shirts of the ground crew were dark brown when we came there, but when we went home they were light brown, very light brown. So I think they went out to some kind of a store to buy a bit lighter clothing. This is the sort of the result of what we achieved at the Red Flag. We flew 65 out of 68 sorties. The other 3 has to be cancelled, and one of the reasons was an unfortunate fatal accident among the aggressors. And you can see on the picture here, we did very well over there. And the unit, I was there visiting the unit, and the squadron commander was as happy as ever. The only thing that prevented his smile to go around all of his head was his 2 ears, so they were happy. And we really met the objectives. So this is where the Swedish Air Force stands today, and now I'm going to talk about the future and what lies ahead of us. We have today a mix of fleet A and Bs and CDs. We will go to a fleet of 100 Gripen CDs, which is the fully interoperable air-to-air fuelable CD version of the Gripen. D is the 2-seater. We are doing it, as I said, in a spiral development idea, and have done that since the very start of the Gripen project. We will continue with that development, and as you can see in the picture here, there's a Gripen A, B, C, D, Gripen demonstrator, and the Gripen NG, and in between that there is several steps of software upgrades. And I'll not show you all those slides about that capabilities that comes in because of size fighter programs. So we'll increase the max takeoff weight from earlier, and we are now in the 16.5 ton regime when it comes to max takeoff weight. We have flown what we call phase 1. We'll go into, in May this year, phase 2 of the test program, and then we'll test things like AESA radar, missile approach warner, IR, search and trackers, and smart weapons, and a whole new communication suite, including satellite communication. And what I'll come back to also is one of the most revolutionary things is the new Avionics package, which I'll cover a little bit later, because I think that is one of the key features from an air chief's perspective. The Gripen NG is for Sweden, and as I said, the demonstrator will lead us into which capabilities we'll put into the Gripen NG. And the Gripen next generation, or also the Gripen IN, which is the one that is marketed here in India. And on the following slide, I'll show you some of the main drivers for the project so far. One of them is what we call a balanced design. That's part of the concept of what Swedish Air Force is expecting, or what we want to have for the future. We believe that we need, in the future, airspace combat will be a mixture of cooperating assets. And we believe that we need a fully flexible fighter that very fast can in particular integrate other weapons. We think it has to be a balanced design. As I said, it should be able to take on any task. So we will not have one fighter that is sort of specialized in one corner of the envelope. Here's a couple of the key features. Multi-role, of course, broadband low observability, super cruise, increased range and endurance, flexible avionics and integrated sensors or weapons, and that is to secure situational awareness, which was very much part of the idea of the data link when we started that up. I also believe very much that one of the main assets for an Air Force is the number of flying hours you spend for your pilots, and so in that respect, life cycle cost is very important, because really the level of the competency in your Air Force is about how many flying hours, high quality flying hours your pilots has. And cost was defined as there was a defined very close link between the weight of an aircraft and the cost of an aircraft in Sweden in the 1970s. And when we started the Gripen, the idea was to keep down costs. And when you look on fighters today, I would say that the biggest enemy towards the fighters would probably be the cost side, because the cost can keep them on the ground and keep them low in numbers, and numbers still matters in the fighter world. What we have done is also to, in the balance designs, to put in more range. As I said, we changed the gear and put in 40% more internal fuel in it. And we are a country that does not have air-to-air refueling capability ourselves. We have a training device on a C-130, but we don't consider that a capability. So you have to reach far away with your airframes as they are. And the Gripen has, in the NG, it has a 2,200 nautical miles ferry range. So that's important. And it's also important when you're deploying far away. And during the Cold War, we operated very much on short, actually highways with the Gripen. I was designed with it from the beginning, and nose whale brake, for instance, the canard that can break. They sometimes call them the elephant ears that is coming up when you're actually touching down on the ground. That was to be able to operate on those short highways and with a very, very low profile or a low logistics footprint. Fast turnaround times and low logistics footprints, so that you actually can, that's a force multiplier, the more number of hours you have in the air. So that was part of the whole concept from the beginning. We also looked into the payload, 10 weapons stations, as I said before, and as you can see there, more than 16 tons. So we can take a wide range of payloads. One of them is the Meteor missile. The Meteor project decided to have Gripen as the test bench. So we are the fighter that has launched the Meteor ramjet missile. We are also looking into supercruise capabilities, and supercruise, as you know, is defined as not using the afterburner, and one of the reasons for that is that we believe that there is more to do in the IR area, so that sensors will develop further in the IR window, and if you're lighting up the afterburner, you will be seen for miles and miles up in the air, and once you have been tracked once, it's hard to get off that. So supercruise and the lower radar emission, low IR and radar emission has been important for us. We also looked into all the spectrums to have low observability in many spectrums, and we believe very much in that. I've told you about the IR spectrum. We're working on the radar cross section, and we're also, from the basic design, it's very hard to see in the air because it's a smaller platform. We also look into the Interoperable communication suite, and as I said, we started with the data links, and Gripen is very much a network fighter, and no network is better than its weakest link, and the Gripen NG will certainly not be the weakest link in this respect. Flexible avionics. Bill Gates said in 1981, no one will need more than 640 kilobytes of memory for a personal computer. 640 kilobytes ought to be enough for anybody. That was 27 years ago. A fighter platform will have a lifespan of 30, 40, 50 years. So it's important that we have some kind of flexibility also on the computer side, so that we can put in new computers into the design. And that is one of the main focus of the Gripen NG, to be able to develop even on the computer side. So that will take us one large step ahead. And the idea is that we should be able to buy commercial off-the-shelf. It's very commercial off-the-shelf items. There's very strong demand from the Air Force that we want to make a dividing line between the flight critical data and the mission critical data, and that will be fulfilled in the avionics on it. The aim is that we should be able to do a major upgrade of the aircraft within 30 days out on the front line, and that has never been done before, and that's a very important feature. And from my perspective, when I heard actually from Marshal Major talking about that it's very important to get the very high end of capabilities all the time. I think this is one of the key features, because most of the high end, very much of the high end capabilities in a fighter will lie in the weapons. So it's very important to very fast bring on new weapons on the fighter. We've also been working on the two-seat capability. We are not giving up the two-seat side of the house. We have developed it into the D version of the Gripen, and will further develop it into the NG. We foresee that our wingmen might be unmanned vehicles in the future, and so that they will do some of the missions in a package. And we think it's important to have some kind of a small AWACS and a guy in the rear seat to actually control some things, and in particular on the communication side. There's a tomorrow, and there's also a beyond tomorrow. And as you see here, we have the Gripen demo, the Gripen NG, but the future doesn't end there. I've been giving you the Swedish Air Force views of the Gripen NG. We have the Parliament decision behind us to pull that forward, or to pull and push it forward in our way. But that development is not an end. We are one part of the Gripen project, and together with 4 other nations, that is doing a major contribution to the further development. I think the more we are that operate the same airframe, the more we gain from it, from each other's ideas, and to develop in the future. And we are, of course, as an Air Force, pleased that the industry is part of the Neuron project, because that's also a thing that leads towards the future and beyond the Gripen NG. And we are satisfied that we see development 2040 and beyond that. So this is what I would like to cover about my Air Force. We are a small country. We are a highly professional Air Force far up in the north. It's actually on the 16th parallel. And we are a small nation, 9 million people, a high technology nation. We have quite a substantial Air Force, and we are looking towards the future. And we now have a fighter demonstrator program, one of the few in the world, and we see what we really want out of that airframe, because that's really in the hands of the Air Force, which side we should push the most. With that, I would like to conclude. I thank you very much for your patience. I appreciate that I've been invited to India to have this presentation, and I wish you all the best with this conference and with your future endeavors in the air side. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Please stay back for a few minutes.
Okay.
We have some time for a few clarifications or questions. Anyone? No? Okay. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Why did we not bring Gripens for the air show this time? We were here last time I think we were here with Gripens 1.5 years ago. Bring it this time because important stuff.
While predicting all these developments which have been undertaken, wouldn't it be nice to apprise us as to what is the comparative performance levels in different spheres with the other aircraft which are European aircraft or the Western aircraft which are being developed?
Sir, as I understood, the want me to compare the Gripen to other competitors?
Yes.
Okay.
On the basic level.
On the basic level, The high level of integration is one of the hallmarks of the Gripen. The high level of the software side. What we are focused very much on is situation awareness for the pilot, intuitive displays. Rather than figures and letters, there is intuitive things like errors, vectors, and things like that. I think the cockpit side, multi-role, true multi-role ideas, I think is important. I was an interceptor pilot before. I could write a book about the difference between my squadron and a wrecker squadron. And after flying 4 or 5 missions in the Gripen, I didn't really understand the question, because it was more a question of which weapons you had on or which sensor we have on. So we are focused very much on that. Things like the size. This is a smaller airframe, but it's still got quite a capability in terms of payload and weapon stations. The spiral development, I would say, is another, as I've mentioned, because it's actually my captains in the Air Force that know the first name of the doctors and the engineers in the industry, and they work together to develop this in this spiral development. I think that's one key. Life cycle cost, affordability has been important for us. We're constantly driving the industry ahead of us to decrease, for instance, the price per flying hour, even though I think we are the lowest among fighter programs in terms of price per flight hour.
Thank you. Let me close now this first talk. Chairman has the prerogative have to make a few remarks. He has given us a very informative talk on the technologies and how this country and the R&D there is progressing, and a lot of inputs on technology that have been utilized and flexible systems and so on. I just want to say that there is a lesson here to learn for all of us. The technology comes in increments, and because technology and quality are competition. We must really look at LCA. LCA is today mature enough to produce. There is one argument. Another side says that it is to improve. There is already scope for improvement. But there is time when we as an aeronautical community have to stand together with the user and say, now we will produce it to the standard and start using it, and then do the LCA Mark II development later. Unless I know that this is not just my personal view, there are many of this view. We have to get united, and we have to say that technology can be achieved through increments, and we want to start somewhere. Otherwise, through LCA we have developed so many technologies, they will continue to develop better product. So I think Chair, DRDO, and the aeronautical community, we have to stand together and start producing LCA. With this remark, let me close this particular talk and thank General Anders in the traditional way.
Thank you.
First of all, let me thank the chairman of the session for giving the collective opinion of the aeronautical community what we feel about LCA. I can ask for the Aero India seminar. We would like to give a memento of the speaker. I request the chairman to give the memento.
I was trying to escape too early, apparently.